You're watching A Million Veteran Millionaires. Change your mindset, change your future.
So I'll go ahead and get us started. My name is Andy Valadez. The platform you're watching is A Million Veteran Millionaires. It was just started as an idea, actually borrowing from Elon Musk with all the talk of AI and the mindset and mastermind. We call this a deep mind endeavor, where someone goes and starts a business. You want to begin with the end in mind, and you want to talk about what it takes to start a business, what it takes to start and grow a business. And that's really what this Zoom call and website was started with. My influence with my friend Kathy Bowersox, who's going to be my co-host. She was interested in helping veterans, and she's been in coaching and been co-hosting with me now for about a year and a half. And so we made a lot of changes and updates to the website as we're growing this thing. But if you go to the website now, amillionveteranmillionaires.com, we now have a section, blog. We have a featured bookstore where you can go and review books that we come across or recommended, and check them out for yourself. We've got a new section called Featured Businesses that we're going to be adding. And this call right now goes once a month, but we're going to start doing these weeklies, if you will, where a veteran business will be featured in a 15-minute interview type format. We're also looking at creating a directory where we can showcase veteran-owned businesses. And not only that, this platform isn't just for veterans, but it's anyone that really wants to grow their business. And so we've been very fortunate to have some awesome high-profile guests that have lent their voice to what we're doing, from Machine Gun Preacher to Frank McKinney, Akshay Nanavati, a Marine veteran, author, speaker, that's actually looking at transversing the Antarctica. So he's challenging himself to face his fears. We've got Ruben Gonzalez, a four-time Olympian. And then we also did a feature with Kathy Bowersox to talk about her business. And so today we've got an awesome guest that we're going to be talking about. And I'm going to read his bio so I don't mess it up. And we're going to have a chance to get to know him a lot better. But I'll go ahead and read the bio, which is off his website. But if you go to markgeist.com, and in the video, I'll put the lower thirds. Our guest, Mark Geist, is a member of the Annex Security Team that fought in the Battle of Benghazi, Libya, from September 11 to September 12 in 2012. A Colorado native, Mr. Geist joined the United States Marine Corps in 1984. During his time in service, he served in the Barracks Duty in the Philippines, then with the 2nd Battalion, 9th Marines Golf Company, as well as a surveillance and target acquisition platoon. He then was chosen to serve in the newly formed Marine Cadre program as an anti-counterterrorism instructor. Upon the completion of a very successful tour and re-enlistment, Mr. Geist changed his military occupational specialty to the intelligence field, specializing in interrogation translation. He attended language school where he studied Persian Farsi. After serving 12 years in the United States Marine Corps, Mr. Geist became a deputy sheriff in Teller County, Colorado. In that role, he was assigned as a liaison with the Vice Narcotics and Intelligence Unit in Colorado Springs, Colorado, as well as an investigator for the crimes against children. Certified as a forensic interviewer of children, he investigated numerous cases of abuse in which he helped to secure convictions of the perpetrators. He then took a job as a chief of the police in Fowler, Colorado. After leaving the Fowler Police Department, Mr. Geist began his own business in private investigations, as well as bounty hunting and bail bonds. In 2004, Mr. Geist began doing contract security work in Iraq. He worked for the Triple Canopy, providing personal security details for the Department of State Personnel in Baquba, Iraq. Upon the completion of that contract, he worked for the USIS, the United States Investigative Services, training Iraqi SWAT teams in personal security details. He also served as a mentor advisor to the personnel security detail of Dr. Ayad Alawai. I'm sorry if I'm misspelling that, or Alawi, the former prime minister of Iraq. Mr. Geist finished his career as a security contractor in Benghazi, Libya, where he was credited with helping to save the lives of more than 25 Americans. Mr. Geist is also still recovering from his injuries he sustained in the battle. He is the co-author of the bestseller book, 13 Hours, the inside account of what really happened in Benghazi. So thank you, Mark, for being available for this Zoom call. And I'm really honored. I think we're all honored to have you here, and we're going to output this for others to listen to. and we're looking forward to get to know what you've been up to the last several years.
Oh, well, thank you. It's an honor to be here and just be able to share the story.
Awesome. So, Kathy, do you want to talk a little bit more, just to embellish what we've been talking about with the Veteran Millionaires and what our goals are?
Sure. So what we're trying to do here with a million veteran millionaires and with Network in Action Business Force, they kind of go together. A million veteran millionaires came out of NIA Business Force, is we are trying to help business owners scale their businesses and get to the next level. Now, this program obviously was developed by Andy. It's his brainchild, and I think it's brilliant. It was originally designed to help veteran business owners grow and scale their businesses, but we welcome civilian business owners as well to join us, because I know there's great knowledge and great information that can be shared from the people that join us, and especially from our amazing guests who have great experience and great wisdom to share. So, Mark, we are really looking forward to hearing what you have to share with us that may be helpful for us in one way or another in growing and scaling our businesses. I know you've had a few, and you've learned quite a bit from your other experiences too.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
So, Mark, when we were looking to book you for this call, you had mentioned about exit strategy, and that was just so perfect given what you had to plan for. As I'm reading the book, that you co-wrote 13 Hours, which is listed in our bookstore as well. I was able to watch the movie last night again, but the book goes into a lot more detail about your mind and how you thought about protecting the folks there, the scenarios that could happen at the annex and the diplomat area. I think the Benghazi, Tripoli area was considered the two most dangerous places in the world for American outposts, if you will. And so as I'm reading this stuff, I mean, the counterterrorism program that you instructed on, when I was in the Marine Corps, they were teaching that at our base in New Orleans, just an anti-terrorist security force, if you will, that would come together and have assignments and roles. So if you wouldn't mind, talk a little bit, about the story of what happened in Benghazi per se, or how you prepared yourself to be utilized in as a protector defender in this hotspot. But you always been mission minded, focused on being a good guy and dealing with evil when it showed up at your doorstep.
Yeah, it's I mean, my whole time in the Marine Corps was, especially when I was working in the intel field, we had started up what you call human intelligence exploitation teams. It's hit teams, and our whole job was to basically move into a country. If there was one of several missions that one of the MUs might do, we would set up safe houses, set up assets, start working them, gathering intel, that kind of thing. And I learned from then early on that no matter where you're at in the world, there's always somebody out there that doesn't like you, especially when you have that American flag on your shoulder. And you better plan for an exit strategy. And, every place I've been in the world, one of the first things I do is start with that. And I don't depend on the government to get me out of something. No matter what, I mean, because there's so many other decisions that come into place there. You got to control that yourself. And whether it be locating, boats, assets, a pilot who knows how to fly, knowing where they're at, knowing where aircraft and different assets within a community or within the area of operations that you're at, so how to get your people out or get you out when it comes down to it. And I think that really plays over into business as well. We talked a lot about that when you start in a business, you got to have an exit strategy. That exit strategy may be staying there forever and running the family business and keeping it going, or it could be I want to develop it, get the foundation built, build it up a little bit, and then either take it public, sell it off, do whatever. But if you don't start planning with that, that exit strategy, whatever your plan is, that's going to guide the rest of that plan. That's going to we in the Marine Corps, we had SMEAC, situation, mission, execution, administration, and control, and all of those things. I mean, it plays right over into business as well. I think that's why the Marine Corps is so successful at mission planning and execution on that. A lot of places you're good at one thing, but you're not good at the other. So you got to find those people to bring you in. And that's kind of what the Marine Corps does well and has taught me. And I carried that over to when I was working for the CIA. I kind of joke about it. Most of the countries that I worked in ended in stands. So if it, that kind of tells you where I spent the majority of my life. I was thinking about it just the other day. Me and my wife were talking, and it kind of made me start to feel a little bit old, but I've been carrying a gun, protecting people and serving this country and American citizens for about 40 years now. And, it's something that we've got to do and we got to continue to do. And that's kind of what took me down the path I went. And you said that, Benghazi was one of the worst places in the world for that, and it's odd that I felt safer there than I did in Pakistan. Pakistan had 90 million people, and I used to joke about it. There's 800 or 9 out of 90 million, 89,999,000 of them hated us. And were looking to do bad things. But, the people in Benghazi, the people in Pakistan, any of the other places I've been, your average person is pretty much the same. I mean, they have the same things we want to do. We want to raise our kids, make sure they're safe. We want to get them a good education, teach them a skill, be able to send them to school without getting blown up, shot, or beat up, as well as, start a business and raise your family. And, when we talk about diversity and stuff like that, I don't know that we put things in place to be different instead of putting things in place to be the same. I was listening to a pastor this morning talk about it, and he says, from our genetic code, he was talking about race, there's not a different race. We're all the same race. And that's the race that was generated from Adam at the beginning of time. And we're all the same color. We're just different shades when you look at it from a genetic standpoint. And I had to agree with him just in all the different countries I've been. I always focused on getting out in town and getting to know the people, getting to know my environment, knowing where the roads are, what roads take you where different people are, different factions, where the good guys are, where the bad guys are, where the guys that you're not sure if they're good or bad yet. Just depends on the situation of the day. And again, a lot of that carries over to business. You got to be in that same mindset all the time. Know your environment that you're going to work in, know it well, and not just all the good stuff. You got to know where the bad stuff is too, so you can avoid it. But go ahead, Andy.
Oh yeah. So one of the things you had to deal with just normalcy bias. There's a lot of people that didn't think y'all were needed, and it seemed like your group had a great assessment of the danger, and others were like, well, you're just hired security, but you had your best interest in protecting these people. And it seemed like there was an arrogance or a reliance on their intellect and their own Ivy League status or whatever can get you killed, right? In those situations. Yeah. But go ahead, Kathy, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, so you mentioned something too that really stood out for me is, you said you got to know who the good guys are and who the bad guys are if you don't know. And you've got to be able to figure that out. I think that kind of discernment is also critical in business when you are looking to hire employees, looking to promote people, looking to do business with people, whether it's vendors or clients. You've got to have that kind of discernment to know if those are people who are going to be good for your business or not. And a lot of times, like Andy, what you were just saying, a lot of times people pay attention to the intellectual but there's also that intuitive and reading body language and all the different signs that I'm sure you relied a lot on, Mark, that you've got to pay attention to, not only in what you were doing, but in the world of business as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's and a lot of that I got to give credit to one, my grandfather. I mean, he was my hero. He was a World War II vet, served in North Africa, started doing some research, and most likely we probably bled on some of the same sand. But he had 5 Purple Hearts, a Silver Star, Bronze Star, stayed all the way through the occupation of Germany, and before he came home and retired out of Fort Carson, and as a major, and that's where he met my grandmother, and they got married. And all the way up through that, the military, the leadership. I talk to a lot of people about differences between management and leadership. Management is about yourself, leadership is about your people, and if you focus on your people, they're going to make you look good. I like to surround myself with people who are smarter than me because they always make me shine. And that's a key thing. I think, whether it be in Benghazi, I need to have the rest of the team. I'm looking for guys to work with that are tougher than me, smarter than me, better in shape, better shots, whatever it is. Because they're only going to help me make me look better.
Well, and help you survive as well, right?
Yeah.
In that situation, it definitely was life or death. So what did some of the other members of the team that you were there with have different arenas of specialty that they were chosen to be part of that team with you?
Yeah, because, and that was the one thing with, we were called, our group was, as a whole, was called GRS, which is Global Response Staff. And I was a direct hire with the CIA, which means that I wasn't working for a contract company like Blackwater or one of those other companies. They reached out to me because of whatever skill set they saw in me, and same with the other guys. We weren't a team that always worked together. And all of us came in at different times. Some of us had more experience, like Tig had been there for 2.5 trips, which is about 6-8 months. I had only been there about 45 days. The other guys a little bit longer than that. And that's another one of those things that really carries over into business is your environment changes on a daily basis. Whether you're in charge or not, your employees are going to change. People, when I was chief of police, it was a smaller town. Officers would come there straight out of the academy, and they would stay there for about a year, maybe a year and a half, just to move on. So we were always putting new guys new guys and gals out on the street. But you had to be good with that. You had to be okay with that and understand your environment and what you're working with. And I've seen a lot of places in those small towns, they don't like to pass on that experience and that knowledge because they're afraid they're going to go to a bigger department and then they have to do it all over again. And, that's again, one of those things that is, the guy, whoever that is worried about themselves more than they are worried about the environment and their people. I'd rather put better cops back out on the street because the job that law enforcement has to do is those boys and girls out there are putting their lives on the line for us every day. And I don't know if I'd want to go back and be a cop this day and age because I don't know if I have the patience for it anymore. Because just people are, I got to give my hat, tip my hat to them. And so that idea of working with new people and getting to know each other's assets and the skill sets that they bring to the table, how each one of us can make that a benefit is just so important, I think, across the board in anything we do in life.
I would wholeheartedly agree. Sorry, Andy, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, right now here in Houston, we're understaffed, I think, by 5,000 police, but it's like that in other cities. And of course, crime is starting to escalate, and we're hearing about in the news and whatnot. So you got to be better trained. And of course, in the military, you're always taught to train the person to do your job, and it was always that focus, if you will. And in reading the book, it was really interesting how you would pre-stage ammo, water, and supplies, tourniquets, and all those kinds of things. Of course, in marketing, to kind of parlay that in marketing, I said, a lot of times I advise clients that everybody needs to be selling. That's the sales reps, that's the customers, that's your employees. And so everyone's engaged in the same mission, the same, purpose for the business, the brand, and as long as there's open lines of communication, and that's really, I think there was like 3 key things you said you needed as an operator, the weapon systems and being able to get to them, the communication lines. And of course, as you're gaming this with everyone, it's almost like nothing had to be spoken because everyone knew what to do as far as your type group was concerned because of the training.
Well, and that's exactly it. I mean, as a leader in a company, as a leader in the field, I want everybody to train each other on their job. I want the marketing guy, so to speak, to be able to be that sales rep, because that marketing guy is going to be out there telling he's going to meet somebody somewhere and have that 5-minute, that 2-minute, 5-minute elevator pitch. I mean, and he has to be, they need to be, all the employees need to be bought into what your mission is and made feel like they're a part of that. In the Marine Corps, we used to have, it was back during peacetime when I was in, so getting promoted was difficult. And so they always said, I had Sergeant Major always said, you got to be all the way to the right on your fitness reports, is what they call it. And we call it, you had to have O's, which is outstandings. If you didn't have O's all the way on every line item on your fitness report, then you weren't going to get promoted. Well, how do you do that? As an employee or as a young Marine, I need to ask my boss what he expects of me. Because if I sit down and don't have that communication with him, if I'm not talking to him, then I could be doing what I think he wants me to do perfectly. And it ain't what he wants me to do if he ain't communicating with me about, okay, hey, this is where you can be better. Then I can't become that better employee. I can't improve. I can't get my fitness report all the way to the right. I can't have all those O's. And it was counseling, and a lot of times, in business and in all of that, counseling sounds like a negative term, but I would sit down with the guys this was a sergeant major taught me this when I was a sergeant, and said, sit down with your guys and talk to them. And hey, what do you think we're doing here? How do you think you're doing? Because not how do you think I think you're doing? How do you think you're doing? Well, I think I'm doing great at this. And I'm the best marketer there is. I'm coming up with great product. I'm getting out there. And it's like, well, that isn't, you are, but you may be as the boss, you're not going in the direction I want you to. Well, and having that one-on-one about every other month or so, every quarter at least, you're developing those young employees, those young Marines, those young war fighters, whatever it may be, into being what you need. And it gives them the direction of exactly how to be better, how to become, a better employee or a better Marine. And then again, they're going to make you shine and make the unit shine, make the company shine. And that's really what we're in business for.
Yeah, before the call, Kathy and I were talking about the personality differences, right? So you want to do a little bit of explanation on the personality, folks, because you got to know who you're talking to and then how to relate to them, right? Kathy?
Yeah, absolutely. If you can essentially speak the same language as the person that you're having a conversation with, based on knowing their type of personality and how they relate and communicate, that makes that message land better. And, thinking about your situation, Mark, and like, what is the mission? Mission is to stay alive and to keep everybody else alive. And so in that situation, that is extremely critical. In business, we don't often tend to think of it as that critical, but it is. It could be the survival of the business or not, or it could be the survival of you as an employee.
Right.
or not. And so it is mission critical to have those conversations. And that's something that we are starting to see to a small degree coming into businesses. It's what we call a coaching culture, where instead of just having a one time a year performance review and you find out in December that half the year your performance was crappy and you don't now have an opportunity to correct it, where if you have that conversation with your employees or with your manager monthly or every other month, then you're learning and growing throughout the whole year, and you're working toward getting those outstandings, those O's, by the time it comes time for your performance review. And everybody is performing better. It's a much more well-oiled machine that you're running in your team or your business, and everybody's working more into going along the same lines in the same direction, which is, I think, critical to accomplishing any mission, whether it's a military mission, whether it is a business mission, or even a personal mission. Having somebody that you have as a sounding board that you can have those conversations with, I think is very, very critical.
Yeah. And to be mature enough to understand that criticism is a good thing. It's not personal. It's not always, you hurt my feelings. It's if I can't have my feelings hurt, then what good am I? I need somebody to be able to make that correction, make that course adjustment. I mean, it's in the land navigation, or like driving a ship or something like that. It's a 1 degree off center. And if you have an employee who is 1 degree off center, how that affects the whole business, because going to your point, 6 months down the road, that 1 degree now is 15 degrees because it continues down that way when everybody else is heading in this direction. And, and that's where you can't coddle them. You just got to be upfront and understand that. And the other thing that I see out of that and the benefits of it is it makes everybody a part of the team. I don't care if it's the person that's, and again, one of the most important people is the greeter at the door. The first person that somebody interacts with your business to me, is one of the most important people that there is, because that's the person or the face or the attitude of your business that person coming in, that new client, whatever it is going to remember. Because if the guy that I'm meeting at the door, whether it be the security guy or the assistant that's taking names, if they have a bad attitude, that tells me as a leader or whatever, that tells me, there's a culture thing here. And why is this employee unhappy? There's something going on here, which then makes me kind of, okay, goes back to your point is, going into the next level of business, or the next, the owner or the CEO or CFO. Now I know what kind of person that is, or at least I may go in there, and it may be an ill-conceived or a misconceived idea, but perception. But that first person that somebody meets is going to set the tone for your whole company.
You're absolutely right. And I think some of what you're talking about is creating the culture that is necessary for team success, whether it's a team like yours or whether it's a team that's an entire company, whether it's a small business like all of us operate, or whether it's a major organization. Like, look at Jack Welch. He had such a huge influence on GE when he was there.
Yep.
He created the culture on purpose, that he was trying to create a great culture. Every company has a culture. Sometimes it's just what happens, which often those are not great cultures, but the ones that are the best are the cultures that are on purpose, where as the leaders, you create the culture that you want to have by recognizing that greeter is just as important as everybody else, and creating that team atmosphere as well.
Yeah.
So I want to shift a little bit. So one of the things that you had to deal with I would guess not only at Benghazi, but in other situations that you have faced, was overcoming overwhelming odds.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of guidance do you have for that, for that we might translate as business owners into how to deal with that in our businesses to overcome overwhelming odds?
And a lot of that, I think it comes down to, I call it my 6 P's, and it's prior planning prevents piss poor performance. It's thinking through those things that are going to happen in the future. I mean, who was it? I think it was Arnold Schwarzenegger had said, you should never have a plan B, because if you have a plan B, then you're already expecting plan A to fail. Well, I disagree with that from my experience, because, plan A works perfect. You got, whether it's business or it's combat, I mean, you're ready to go. There's extenuating circumstances that you're going to run into that are not going to have been looked for or planned for. And if you haven't thought of a way to deal with that, then you're going to have that sense of dread, okay, this, and how big it is, whatever that thing that you didn't think of, hey, everything's going great. I'm going to get funding for this and we're going to grow this. And all of a sudden, the market changes or COVID hits. Not that we can anticipate COVID, but we have to anticipate bad things happening in the economy, in the market. How do we address that? Well, hey, I've got this, I call it a course of action. I've got a course of action that I've planned out. I put it up on the shelf. Well, I'm going to pull it out. It's not going to be exactly the way I'm going to go, because again, things are happening, but it gives me direction of, it gives me the situation, how to deal with this. Where are these people? And I do it from a fundraising aspect. I've got a lot of different course of actions that I use for our nonprofit. We develop them. We have how to do everything for a golf tournament, for, I call it movie night with Oz, or for something like that. Well, it may be different in Houston than it is in Connecticut, whatever the case may be. We may be having a golf tournament, all of a sudden it's raining. What did we think of? Did we, it never rains, or it does rain. Have we checked the weather? And those are the odds that you face as a business. I mean, it could be anything like that. And if you're not planning for those, roads, either the turn in the road or the speed bumps that come up, then you do get overwhelmed. And that's where I think that sense of being overwhelmed comes. It could be a death in the family, things like that, and not to think of the negative things all the time, but if you're not thinking of them, you will get overwhelmed by one of those situations that may happen.
I just want to say, being ready, because how we met, I got a phone call and had a friend of mine say, hey, I can give you an hour with Oz, but you're going to have to come get him and rent him and take him to the airport. And I jumped at that opportunity. So again, I appreciate you being available for this call, but we wanted to kind of talk about, since you did mention it, the your charity that you support, Shadow Warriors Project, and because we're running out a little bit of time, but we want to have a question and answer with some of our audience members as well. So would you talk about the Shadow Warriors Project? I know you and your wife started that, but what does it do? And then how can we support this effort?
It's ever growing. I mean, right now with what's going on in Sudan, we're collaborating with another nonprofit called Project Dynamo. And Project Dynamo, we've got guys on the ground that are, 3 days ago, we were able to get boots on the ground in Sudan to start evaluating and seeing what we can do to move American citizens into safe places, getting them either out of country or at least hard pointing them, safe houses, whatever it may take. We started this came about, this relationship with Project Dynamo came about from Afghanistan with the pullout there. Moving people across the border or helping them get across the border into Pakistan so they can get out, American citizens, green card holders, refugees, and different things like that. But originally, and it's, this kind of gives you the idea of we're a business that's always growing, always changing. I mean, we're an amoeba, it seems like, because we started really just to help private security contractors who are working overseas. One of the things most people don't realize is that since 2001 to present, there's been over 5,000 contractors for U.S. government that have been killed in 40 different countries, and 30,000 that have been wounded. Now, a lot of them are not American citizens either, because they contracted with Iraqis, they contracted with Bangladeshis. I mean, we had Australians, we had South Africans, you name it, to run operations to fill those jobs where it didn't have to be a military person with food service or whatever the case. And we kind of focused on the security side of things, because those that are working in security are usually the ones that are getting injured the most or getting killed. And they have a workman's comp policy. So like myself, I went from making $700-800 a day to the day I left Benghazi, which was on September 12th, my pay stopped. I didn't get paid, even though I was in the hospital for 6 to 8 weeks. I had a year and a half of recovery. I had to go file paperwork with the Department of Labor to get my workman's comp paid and get that started up, which, anybody who's been in business knows how wonderful workman's comp is. Whether you're on the business side or the other side of it, it's never a good thing. And that's really what started us. And then from there we grew. I got a service dog. So I wanted to pass that on to others. I wanted to give, people out there who aren't having that, because, like right now, to get a service dog, if you're a veteran, to get a service dog for a disability, it's a 2-3 year wait sometimes, because it's just, there's not a lot of good quality dogs out there, good quality trainers. So we partnered with a group. Again, we found a group that was raising the best dogs in the world, and that's Baden Canine. They're raising German Shepherd's dogs, Belgian Malinois, and Dutch Shepherds. And we use those we started a program with that, was developing those and giving away between 3 and 5 a year. But that wasn't enough for me, because then I'm only helping 3 to 5 people, and really wanted to do more than that. So I grew up farming and ranching, grew up rodeoing. Horses and dogs were a big part of my life growing up. And I'd seen some equine therapy programs out there where they bring in combat vets with PTSD or TBI, and they work with a horse for a week, and there's something soothing about that animal that really kind of can calm a person's soul. But not everybody can have a horse that goes home and take a horse home with them, right? Can't have a service horse. But we wanted to do that with the dogs. So we started what I call a canine therapy program, where we bring in anywhere between 5 and 10 combat vets. We're faith-based, because I should have died 3 times that night up on the rooftop. And the only reason I didn't was because the Lord above, his angels wrapped their wings around me, protected me, because the mortars that killed Ty and Glenn, they went through me. They were on the opposite side of me. I was in between them and the mortars, and they went through me and killed them. There were, and the Lord had a reason for it. So I'm not going to shove it down people's throats, but I'm going to sure introduce them to it, and let the Lord do the work from there. And we use the dogs to do that. As we humans, we live in the physical and see in the physical. And anybody who's ever owned a dog kind of knows what I'm going to say here is dogs live in the physical, but see in the spiritual. Dogs know good people and bad people. They can see evil. And anybody that doesn't believe there's evil in the world probably has been living in a cave lately. We see it all the time. And my dog, I trust my dog. I was speaking at a law enforcement conference, and Roan is my dog, and named after Tyrone Woods, who got killed next to me. She was laying at my feet, and she always has her ears back, her eyes are closed like she's sleeping. And a guy walked in, and an ear popped up and cracked him all the way across the back of the room. And the whole time she's got this low growl going on. no one could hear it but a few of the guys that were in the front row. And when he left, it stopped. Ear went back down, nothing happened. And they asked me afterwards, they're like, well, why was she growling at that guy? I'm like, my guess, because he's evil. He's got dirt on him. He's doing something wrong. And they're like, oh, no, he's a cop. I'm like, if you don't think there's dirty cops, then you need to readjust you better adjust your azimuth as well. But because there's people out there doing bad things around the world. Evil exists. Whether the person is evil or not, there may be something attached to him that's evil or her. And so we use the dogs to kind of bring that out, and people not bring that out, the evil, but to help them and use the dogs to teach them how to manage their anxiety and their stress. Again, I've done a lot of stuff around the world, had a lot of bad things happen, seen a lot of bad things that have happened to other people. And people are like, well, don't you have PTSD? And I'm like, well, I don't know why. Well, don't you have bad dreams? I mean, you've really saw a lot of bad stuff. We all think you're supposed to have bad dreams. I'm like, I just choose not to. I'm not going to have that. And when I start feeling bad, or if there's something, I mean, I'm going to have good days and bad days like we all do. But through that dog, we can do that. And then we because everything we do with the dogs is done in threes, because it's the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost that leads our training and our philosophy. And the last thing that guys got to do, or guys and gals got to do, is tell their story. And it's not just their combat story. I want their life story, because so many people join the military because they're running from something or running to something. They're looking for a better life, or they're running from a bad one, running from bad things they've done, whatever it is. And, and this is your time to understand that, what, you're just like the rest of us. I mean, for the longest time after the military, people are like, they're like, Mark, you use the F word as if it's a comma. I'm like, yeah, because that's a Marine, It's not, and it's not the words that are evil. It's what's in your heart. When we were getting ready to write the book, one of the publishers asked me, hey, do you hate the people that were trying to kill you? And I'm like, no, why would I hate them? And they're like, well, they're trying to kill you. And I'm like, I was trying to kill them because they were trying to kill me. And we just happened to be better at it, or graced. But, and I take that same approach to business. I mean, one is I want to work with people who are equally yoked, who believe the same, have the same philosophies, the same mission in life as I do. And that's who I really surround myself with. We're also going to live kind of like, we're going to run into situations like Daniel did. And he was captured and taken to a pagan society, and he had to live and work in an environment that was uncomfortable to him. But he kept to his principles in life, and there's so much to that, whether it's in business or in life in general, is have those things, that code, because a person's got to have a code that sticks you, that grounds you into who you are and the direction you're going to go, or your business is going to go, so you don't get a degree off. And if I do, I surround myself with people who are going to be brutally honest with me. Hey, Mark, you're screwing up. Whack, hit you in the head and get you back on azimuth, because before you're too far down the road.
Well, thank you for sharing your interest in Shadow Warriors Project, and again, the miracle of your survival, because I made a point to go back to the video where you spoke at the academy, and you survived the 3 hits with the 81 millimeter mortar, and you had 25 injuries, as well as, I guess, your throat got cut and you almost lost your arm, and you're credited with saving 25 people that day. So kudos to you. In reading more about your background, discovered you used to ride bulls, and you wanted to be a cowboy as one of your missions. And today we have Scott Mendez joining us. He's a world champion bull rider. I wanted y'all to meet each other, but we're going to go ahead and open up for question and answers. We also have, I think if Lance is still on, he was in Afghanistan, and we've been praying for one of his interpreters. Of course, in the movie,
what I was going to say.
In the book, this interpreter, 60-year-old guy that wasn't a military guy, as an office person, but he was recruited. They said, put on the armor, and he said he didn't have weapons training. Here's a gun. And I think the author was saying how inspired he was by this guy, because he wasn't a trained warrior, but here he was offering himself, or at least being volunteered to go communicate with the 17th February Martyr Brigade, I guess they were, militia, and to be that conversationalist to help you guys accomplish your mission. So recruited on the fly. So Scott, if you're there, if you wouldn't mind chatting, and Lance a little bit. And of course, Dan Regalia, he's a Marine vet. He's on the call as well.
Yeah, Mark, I'd love any insight, any direction for help. I've got a interpreter with a wife and 3 kids that have been stuck in Afghanistan, and I can talk for hours about all he's been through and, you know, the failed tries at trying to get him out. But yeah, I mean, he's daily on my heart, especially after this last movie, The Covenant. That's really got me going.
Yeah. It'd probably be best if we maybe kind of talk offline. I still got a few contacts that are over there that move in and about that area. You know, and the hard thing is, I mean, and it really frustrates me, not to bring in politics, but the way the administration has dealt with things. You know, you can get out and get to a refugee camp, hopefully, but getting to the States, I mean, to get that status.
Yeah, he made it on foot to Turkey, and then the Turkish government sent him back.
Yeah.
Just crazy stuff like that. And we couldn't do anything to stop it or anything.
Yeah, that's one of the difficult things. I mean, you know, and there's I kind of think some things outside the box. You know, there may be some, I've got a lot of people I know that work missions in different, in Pakistan and Tajikistan and things like that, you know, and there's possibly ways to get to them, because if they can get there, then they can help support them, put them to work, find a way to do it. I mean, you know, and whether you're, as you know, I mean, whether you're I've had as many Muslims try to save my life as probably have tried to kill me. You know, I lived on a camp with 900 Iraqis, and for a year I lived out in town outside of the Green Zone with Dr. Ayat Alawi's crew. It was me, a South African, and 2 Kurdish guys, and I felt actually safer out there than I did in the Green Zone, because at least in the Green Zone, you know, not being in the Green Zone, you weren't getting mortared and rocketed. But
like you said, they're normal people.
Yep. People just most people just don't understand what and I'm kind of getting off the beat here, but Christians, Jews, and Muslims are all Abrahamic religions. We all worship the same God. The thing that screwed it up is man. We got in there and tried to make it a religion instead of just a relationship with the Lord. But that's my kind of 2 cents on that.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to you more, Mark.
Yeah, we definitely. Andy, you can share my phone number with him, and we can chat up.
All right, Mr. Scott. Yeah, you're doing some awesome things, man. Y'all need to hook up as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Andy, for your service. Mark, Kathy, Lance, for just allowing me to, you know, set in and hear God's wisdom and the opportunity and the things that your visions are bringing forth. It's a blessing. Mark, I commend you on your, you know, non-compromise stance and, you know, your service. I think anybody that's willing to follow a business or a mission statement, you know, myself, just looking at it this way, I don't want to follow somebody that doesn't have scars, you know, and to be a veteran, to be down in the battle, you know, whoever that may be or whatever you're fighting against, it's important. There's safety in a multitude of counselors and training, and so it's just exciting to listen to you share wisdom on your life events and, you know, imparting that to others, whether that is business or nonprofit. Those are very, very commendable. We run and do, you know, similar things. So I would love to get to know you more and share, you know, the things that we're taking on, as God has brought many blessings to my family and our ministry. So I'm real honored to be with all of you guys today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. And I would love to catch up more, learn more about what you guys do all of that, because we're the seeds that have been scattered in some of us on the hard tack, some of us in fertile ground, I don't. There for a long time, I think I was one of those seeds that got put on the hard path and getting stepped on all the time. But like you said, I've learned more from my failures and my mistakes than I have ever from my successes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing that, when we look at the condition of the world, and, the Bible says that the things of God are foolishness to a carnal man, and the principles that we use in business, in the natural, as you described with your dog and the animals, are the same principles, but it is the heart matter that brings the blessings, the peace, the fruit of the Spirit, the joy, long suffering, things that aren't typically preached in your mainstream today. And if the church is compromised, then our culture has no more ability to shape. And so when you see a culture shaping our church and our people, we have a problem. And that problem is something that's coming ashore from around the world. But sometimes I have to internalize and look at myself and, what have I done? Like Kennedy said, don't ask what you can do, ask your country what your country can do for you, but vice versa. And so, when we see that, that's really what our ministry is about, conquering the beast. And we relate it to riding bulls in the arena because of my stance with the PBR and my career and my life. But the real renewing the mind is conquering the beast, that when you're looking in the soul, it's that accountability to what God has called you to do, and recognizing the gifts that he gave you is to advance his kingdom and to bless your journey rather than self-absorbing that. And I just see way too many people that, maybe pray but don't repent, or they, the devil's always going to give you 3 wheels to that car, but don't ever get that 4th car. He'll wake you up and take you to a great message just as long as it doesn't ask you to do something in that message. And
100%.
You can see that in government. You can see it in education. So the pillars that we are trying to take back that ground is probably no different than that land that when Joshua inherited the torch from Moses, he said, everywhere you go, you're going to take back that ground. But you have to have the Caleb and Joshua spirit. You got to see the giant as just something that stands between what God promised you already. And so I'm like you, just as business and entrepreneurship, I think that God is, giving us some things, but I tell people all the time, the Holy Spirit shows up in overalls. And so you got to be willing to work and do your part, or the equation doesn't work. And when God is taken out of a country, not everybody's going to figure that out, but we got to do our part. And that's remnant church of God rising up. We're not Christians by label. We're Christians by actions and heart and being a servant leader. And that gets you into the, the military and things of service. And we need a lot of service because I think we've got complacent and set down, whether it's a greedy corporation or a self-centered pastor, whatever it is, we got to uproot it. And when God tells us that he's done everything he's going to do through Jesus, the rest is up to us in faith that he promised us victory in the end.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. The sin of, we look at things as a society that the sin of flesh is so bad, when really I think the greater sin is the sin of pride, because pride is what causes all of those other sins. Because I think I'm so great, I think I'm this, whatever it may be, it leads to those other things. It leads to the greed, to the debauchery, to everything else in our lives that we're willing to sacrifice or give up. But it's that pride that we have to, pride's a tough one. Pride's a tough one because we always love to be looked up to and given compliments. And that's the challenge in life. That's the big one, I think.
I think that's the one that saw the prince in Persia fall like lightning from the sky. And we still deal with that Ishmael and that Isaac, that split of the promise and the child of the promise and the child of the flesh getting ahead of God and thinking there's no way that God truly meant that. But there's a distortion of the word in every place that we've gotten off course. And
Yep.
we need to go back to that word and exalt the one that gave us the word, because he is the word. And man, I'm just excited. I'm like Andy, when you surround yourself, go where you're, celebrated rather than tolerated. And when you get into agreement, whether it's your staff or whether it's your family, a three-strand cord is not easily broken. And I just think the world is set up through COVID. When the enemy is released the way he is, it is totally spiritual now. And so we have to take that back by doing what God originally asked us to do, and that was to keep him in his proper role. That's in school, that's in politics, that's everywhere. And somewhere, a lot of people listen to lies and they kick the can down the road. And we get to live in the generation that could see the magnificent return of our fathers. So we have to expect that. And if nothing else, at least leave our younger generation a legacy of understanding it's their turn, to fight that battle as well.
Yeah, that's very, it's when one of the things that was asked of me when we were writing the book is, well, weren't you afraid of dying? And I'm like, well, why would I be afraid of dying? And they're like, well, you'd be dead. And I'm like, I knew one of two things. Every day I wake up, I know one of two things is going to happen. When I get done with work, I'm going to be with my family, or if I die, I'm going to be with the Lord. And there ain't nothing better than that. So why, what am I afraid of? Why be afraid of dying? Because I've read the last chapter of the last book of the greatest book that's ever been written. And you know what? It's all good.
Yeah, absolutely. You were talking about an exit strategy, and my story. Andy knows this. We're working on my life rights right now, and it's really starting to pick up. We had it in place before COVID, and anyway, the team has come together. God's timing is not our timing, and so right. I'm excited about what's going on with all those things. But the bigger picture is helping people to understand, what is your beast? Is it pride? Is it lust? Is it fear? Is it anger? Whatever. We got to get to the root if we're going to change the fruit. And like I said, the devil doesn't mind you swatting at the low-hanging fruit if you're never going to be willing to change. And change is not something easy. And so most people don't preach that attribute, and that step of how to do that. And so, yeah, just, life is a full journey. But, man, I'm, again, just honored to be with you guys. And it's important that if we have leadership or teaching or prophetic abilities, that God never gave anybody, all those gifts. And when you're talking about an exit strategy, you are content. Like Paul, he said, I've been abound, I've been abased, or if I'm living now in Christ. So the flesh may be deteriorating or going through its circumstances, but my soul, my mind, my will, and my emotion are even stronger day by faith in my Lord.
Amen.
And so the exit plan that we need is to make sure, number one, you're saved. When you strap on your gun and you serve our country, which my son is being deployed right now. He's in El Paso going to the Horn of Africa. And Andy will tell you that came out of nowhere. My grandfather, he was a veteran in World War II. My uncle was killed as a captain in the National Guard. My son is wearing his bracelet and off, for deployment for a year. And as a cowboy family, we're just trying to figure out how to go down that road. But his heart is right to serve. We should have recognized that earlier. But as he goes to serve and as your service, what we really need to do is just put things into the proper perspective. Because even with all the voices going on in this world today to destroy, that ain't the truth. There's more of us in the spirit and even in the natural. But when we're segregated, a house divided shall not stand. And so that's our job, is to lead by example. And, you don't just have humility one day. You're either humbled or have been humbled by God, or you're going to be humbled. So people that are trying to put on a face when the TV lights are on, I don't want to follow those kind of people. And that's probably the people that you have in the microphone sharing so much of the media. So we got to take back the media, our country, in every way possible. How do we do that? By ruling and reigning. And that's what God called us to do as his ambassadors in the beginning.
Yep. By discipleship. Go forth and make disciples.
All right.
This is
Well, thank you, Mark, for going the extra mile. You know, and the highest standard was the good centurion, right? So this was a person under authority, but he wasn't abusive. He wasn't tyrannical. He wasn't there to hurt the people. He was there to help the people. And when we started this platform, you know, in the conversations I've had with vets, you know, as goes the veteran, goes the nation. But if we look at this time in history, suicide rates are up with pastors, with law enforcement, with veterans, and heads of household, both male and female. So the people are feeling the burden, financial burdens, you know, lost opportunities, the transition, COVID, all that stuff. And so we just want to offer a way. Million Veteran Millionaires concept is like, you know, if you can be successful and be a good person, right? Because money magnifies you. If you're a bad person, it's just going to exasperate that. Then you're more able to help those in your circle, right? So we were talking about faith here, but Jesus started his ministry with Andrew and Simon. They were business people. You know, they supplied the people with, you know, food and the ability to live another day, you know, through sustenance, right? So thank you again for going the extra mile today, Mark. You didn't have to do this Zoom call. I know you're in demand. People want you to come speak and all that. So we're so grateful you're lending your voice to this platform. And thank you, Scott, as well. And I don't know if we have time for one more question from Dan, or I think Tony had to leave. Dan has a tap handle business here in Houston. Go ahead, Dan.
Great. Hey, Mark.
He's a Marine vet as well. Is that 5?
Yeah. Not much to everything that's been said about religion has kind of been said already, but I want to talk a little bit about my business exit strategy and kind of what I'm doing. I've had a really odd year. I can identify a little bit with you. When you were injured, you know, you were going through recovery. I don't know what you did for your business, but the last year I've been kind of going through mine after kind of taking a head-on collision. It's really caused me to not be able to do my business. So, you know, I had to take a job, but I ended up taking a couple of pages out of the Chosen Reservoir stories and started advancing in different directions. It wasn't a plan B. There was never a plan B. Make tap handles. So now I've revitalized my old software business, X7 Studios. I still do Texas tap handles, making tap handles for breweries. I think what I'm going to do is I want to keep Texas tap handles as a job going forward, but come up with an exit strategy for the software side, possibly start selling off titles after they're built and or businesses, kind of build them up and move on. But yeah, the last year of recovery has been really interesting and a little bit of eye-opening. And, you know, if it wasn't for all the leadership, you know, the stories, the books, the reading lists, everything, you know, this would have never crossed my mind on how to, you know, kind of spend the last year. So I'm kind of curious to hear what you did during your recovery when you were kind of coming back and healing up from all your wounds and stuff. You know, how did you advance your business, your cause? You know, what was your direction? Where did you kind of calibrate your azimuth, or how'd you learn to walk the distance, you know, on broken legs?
Most of it was because, I mean, I had this idea of of taking care of others. My whole life's been about service to others. And that's where I come up with, I was laying in the hospital in Walter Reed, and I told my wife, I'm like, you know what? I don't want any other family to go through this. We're going to start something to help them. I didn't know nothing about nonprofits. I mean, the Lord gave me the platform with the book and with all of that to kind of help out a lot. I'd have to give, there was a couple, Megan Kelly from Fox was instrumental in helping us, because every time I was on her news channel, she would promote Shadow Warriors. We'd raise $100,000 every time. And, and so I was lucky in that sense, or blessed in that sense for sure. But, but there was a lot of struggles in there too. I mean, at the time I think total I've had about 14, 15 operations over the 2 years following. I had issues with early on because the medical people don't want you to be in pain. So I would go into the hospital. I'd come out, they'd give me a bottle this big of OxyContin, and I was on 900 milligrams of Oxycontin a day. I finally got tired. I mean, they used to get mad at me because I would drive up. I was back here home. I was going to the Air Force Academy for surgeries and for physical therapy. And, you know, my wife had to take care of our youngest daughter because she was a year old at that time. And I knew my physical therapy was going to be an hour or two. So I would drive over there and they would always be like, you know, how'd you get here? And I'm like, my wife brought me. And they're like, well, where's she at? I'm like, she's breastfeeding the baby down in the car. You can go check on it if you want. Well, she was never there. I mean, but it was those things, you know, and I decided, for me, it was like, I decided at the end that, you know, I got tired of being tired. I got tired of being lazy. And I just cut myself off of the oxys, off of the antidepressants, all of that stuff, because I wasn't going to deal with it. I mean, I knew that it was fogging my brain. And I think COVID is the same way. I mean, you know, I got COVID pretty bad because I've got lung issues anyways, just from either the burn pits or mortars or, you know, whatever that affects my lungs. And when I got COVID, it was pretty bad as well. But my answer to that was, it was during COVID when we started our K9 therapy program. And we had a family out down in Lubbock, Texas that had a barn that we built, or that we kind of adjusted to fit for what we wanted. And we just started bringing people in, found ways to make things happen. And I'm not going to let anybody else kind of dictate my path other than the Lord. And I'm going to pray to him and, hey, you're going to either make it happen or it's not. And if it doesn't, give me the discernment to know where you want me to go. You know, and there's always those struggles. We had an opportunity back in November to be with a group that was going to be doing a golf tournament at a very prominent place where, you know, they're like, in the past, they'd raised over a couple $1 million. It would have been terrific. It could have been financially great for us. But the more I tried doing that, the more struggles I was having with it, the more stress in my life. And finally, you know, I said, you know what? I don't want to be I'm to the people that, you know, I thought some of them were friends. The guy that I thought was friends said, you know, hey, I'll burn friendships for a business. And I'm like, well, then I guess we've never been friends. If you kind of have that mentality. But the day that me and my wife talked about it and said, you know what, I'm not going to be the fly in the ointment. You guys go your way. I'm going to step back, do my own thing. There was a sense of peace that came over me that I knew I made the right decision. And what ended up happening is that event was an event of the flesh, not of the spirit. And they had a lot of problems when they did it. And things didn't go as well as what everybody thought it would. And it wasn't what it was. And I had other groups call me and say, man, the best decision you made was to step out of it. So one is I follow my heart and I follow what Christ tells me. I mean, you know, I don't know if you do a lot of praying, but wear out those knee pads. I mean, get on your knees and ask the Lord the direction he wants you. You know, and you'll love with his direction, you're going to love whatever it is that he has you do, because it is spirit filled, and he'll surround you with people who are going to help you be successful as well.
I get called on to help everybody else, actually.
There you go.
I'm pretty self-sufficient, but I find myself being the one that ends up, you know, going to someone's house. It's, you know, my specialty is, you know, computers, software, robotics, development. I'm one of those smart Marines, right? So it's, I end up finding my way. Yeah. Well, you know,
crayons for you, huh, Dan?
Oh, no. I'm a connoisseur of crayon. You know, I'm smart enough to eat only the good ones, right?
There you go.
No, but I'll tell you what, something you said just kind of rang true. Or just kind of reminded me. It's something my gunny told me back when I was stationed in Memphis. So, you know, where you're asking, you know, your sergeant major and stuff, how to do stuff. I was out fishing with mine. So, you know, my staff sergeant, sergeant major, myself, and Bobby Doyle from PAO, we would all go out and we would go fishing on the lake, Navy Lake, on Naval Air Station Memphis, Millington. This is back in the early 90s. He said, you know, Regalia, he said, we're not humans having a spiritual experience versus spirits having a human experience. Try not to fuck it up too much. And that's kind of how I've always
Amen.
approached everything. It's, I know I'm human, I'm doing, the human thing. So I'm going to continue to do it, but, make sure that you always, lead with your spirit first and, follow that little voice in your head. And, so that's, it's the human and spirit experience is kind of explained to me that way. And it helped me realize it's like, look, stop trying to be something and just accept what you are and just, understand that, this is a trial that you have to go through. So,
Well, and it's like with your business. I mean, you got two businesses there. They're a dichotomy, really, it seems like. I mean, one's opposite of the other, but is there a way to meld those two together in a sense? I mean, with your experience in robotics and doing all that to help with, if you haven't done that, do that and build that that structure or that infrastructure that can be then grown to be from the robot, because I think right now is between AI and robotics and the technology that we have, we're going to be doing things, there's things that can be made and processed and utilized that that we've never even thought of, and as easy as they can be nowadays with 3D printers and all of that stuff. And, it's make a plan, head that direction. And if you need to make a course adjustment on the way, do it.
Oh, always. Yeah. Semper Gumby, always flexible.
Always flexible.
Hey, Danny, you just remind me of Sergeant Major Prescott. He had his Prescottisms. He said there's three kinds of people in this world: those that make things happen, those that let things happen, and those that wonder what the heck happened, right? So we're going to go ahead and wrap right now. Again, you've been watching A Million Better Millionaires with Mark Oz Geist. We didn't get to talk about how you got the nickname Oz, but you worked for the Culinary Institute of America, and you weren't supposed to be known by your name in Benghazi. So Oz became your call sign name, as well as TL for team leader. So we do encourage you to get the book, 13 Hours. You can go to markgeist.com. We'll put this in the lower thirds. If you want an autographed copy, because this will benefit Shadow Warriors Project and his mission. Thank you, Mark, for sending this to me a while back. And then we did discover that your name, Mark, actually means warrior. So thank you. It's apropos that we would have you as a guest. We did talk about marketing artificial intelligence. And so if you go to our website, there is a marketing AI feature. And right now there's 130 marketing AI platforms. So what we're going through is evaluating those that we think might be helpful to your business, from voice cloning to video production to photo photography. I'm reading a book now. It's on our list at A Million Better Millionaires called Marketing Artificial Intelligence, written by, I think, Robert Rotzer, who started the Marketing Artificial Intelligence Institute. And in the book, he recommends predictive machines, the simple economics of artificial intelligence. Everyone's talking about it. I haven't started reading this one yet, but this is on my book list reading for now. Kathy, did you want to say something in closing today? It's been an awesome chat and discussion, and thank you all for participating.
I just want to tell our guests that I hope that this was helpful for you. It was amazing information. Mark, thank you very much for taking time to join us today and to share your experiences and your wisdom. I know that it's been great guidance. And one of the coolest things I got out of it was the prior planning prevents piss poor performance. I love that. I'm going to start using that. And just thank you so much. And if there's any way we can support Shadow Warriors Project, please feel free to reach out to Andy or me and let us know. And we'd love to help support you in that.
Well, thank you so much.
You again.
You're welcome. It was, I loved it. I loved getting to meet new people. I mean, the Lord brings people together for certain reasons, and we don't always know it up front. We'll figure it out later down the road. And those relationships that we can build in life are so important to success.
Well, I hear you coming to Houston sometime in the near future.
Oh, yes.
I'd love to get a chance to meet you while you're here.
Yeah, I've got to look at when am I going to be there? I forgot. What did I tell you, Andy? My schedule.
It was open, so we're trying to figure out a date when you're going to come.
Yeah,
and we want to support.
Yeah, we got to do something about getting down there. I know Rick, mutual friend of ours, Rick, really wants to get me down there, but I got to figure out how to get
a movie
help
night,
make
a
that
shooting
happen.
event. We've got Katie Christian Chamber wanting to have you come speak at one of the breakfasts. So I think we can roll out a nice reception for you.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's work something out.
Now, one quick life
Fantastic.
saving tip that you actually turned me on to is I've always been, like a watchman. I have an IFAC, and it was sitting in my battle box at home. I said, well, it's not doing me any good there. It has a tourniquet and all that, so I'm putting it in my SUV, but also bought 4 for my family. So I'm going to give 2 to my daughters and then another extra one. But I like the way you said that would, you want it to be around. You don't want it in your trunk in case you needed it, right? And I think another component to that was having them open so you don't have to fidget with it, especially if you're incapacitated with one of your arms. So
Well,
thank you
and
for sharing that.
think about with those IFACs or anything like that when it comes to medical stuff is like, everything's sealed in plastic nowadays. Are you able to grab a hold of that with wet, bloody, muddy hands to open it up? I always take something simple. I take, 1,000 uses of duct tape. I take it and make rabbit ears on so I can just grab it. And no matter how good my hands are, you can open it up to get to it because, it's not something that you want to not be able to get to when you need it. And it goes back to on anything, whether it's business or whatever. And I guess this is my last nugget of, I don't know if it's wisdom or not, but in the military, you are only as good as your last training session. And when the shit hits the fan, whether it's in business or in combat or in life, people say, yeah, y'all rise to the occasion. People don't rise to the occasion. You fall back to the highest level of training that you've had. If you're training down here, that's where you're going to fall back to, whether it's in business or in life, in your spiritual, following of Christ. Train hard, be hard, and be at the top of the game. Because when it comes that time, that's where you're going to end up. That's the performance you're going to give.
Great
Also, I'll
point.
use some jargon here. So IFAC stands for Individual First Aid Kit. IFAC. You can order these online, I guess at Amazon or other, just do a search. So thank you so much for the awesome dialogue. This is incredible. And they've all been. Speaking of, I wanted to make a mention that we had Machine Gun Preacher on here recently. He's been in the Sudan. And I think in that interview, or at least one of the speeches, he was talking about the combat zone there in the Uganda area. And they were expecting at least 50 million people to die just through starvation, war, and ISIS. And ISIS is everywhere, to include America. And so he's 60 years old, and he asked the Lord, why do you have me in a war zone again? And he said, well, because you're seasoned. So, Mark, you've been serving, your circle so well, and it's because you're seasoned. So we thank you for being a part of the conversation.
Hey, thank you so much. God bless everybody. Thank you for having me, and thanks. It was great meeting y'all.
Hey,
Mark.
Andy,
Yes,
when
sir.
you get a chance and you get Mark to Houston, make sure to allow a day for him to come to Cowtown so we can show him around DFW a little bit.
Oh, yes, Dallas. He's closer to you. You probably might come through Dallas, Fort Worth first, maybe down to Houston.
Absolutely. Well, we'll have to put on a big shindig for the Lord and business and his warriors rising up one accord. Amen.
Sounds like a winner.
Also, and we have a bay down here, so we can plan maybe even a fishing trip, a gathering where folks will want to go do some deep sea fishing or bay fishing.
I'm pretty sure we have quite a few veteran charters that would be more than willing to take us out. For a nice little shindig in the bay. I'm pretty sure we can
Dan's
find one
super
pretty
connected.
quick.
He knows a lot of the great
Yeah.
places to do stuff with.
I'm thinking of
by-
one or two off my head, Dan.
Yeah.
In my head.
By the way, if you're looking for another thing to write off your trip to Houston with, or at least Texas, have you ever heard of Craig Sawyer? Craig the Sawman Sawyer?
Yeah, I know him real well.
Yeah, I believe he's up in Austin, right?
I think so.
Yeah. Probably touch base with him. He's starting to get active again.
Good. Yeah, we've talked a lot about doing some stuff because, when I was in law enforcement, I'd say this sounds weird, but the Lord blessed me with having the ability to get kids to tell me stuff they should never have to tell anybody. And with my past as an interrogator, the Lord gave me the ability to get other people to tell me stuff, to commit or admit to stuff that they normally wouldn't admit to people. And so I love his mission. I love what he does. And anytime where I can help him out, I'm 100% on board. We got to, as the Lord said, we got to protect our kids. And they're getting attacked heavy. They're getting attacked with the demons that are attaching to them and to their parents and things like that.
Yeah, and there's no retribution for any of it. None of them are being brought to justice, and it's deeply concerning when the society allows that to happen to kids. So I'm 100% with you on that one.
I heard it the other day. Is what used to slither down our alleys is now walking upright down our main streets and trying to force Christians to walk and slither down the alleys. We as people of faith have to stand up and put the armor of God on and go back at them. I mean, frontal assault. That's what needs to happen on what's going on in this world.
It's a funny thing about bullies. Once you make an example out of a few of them, the rest of them kind of back down and go back to the alleys.
That's right. Yeah, they need to not only go back to the alleys, they need to just get all the way out of town.
Yeah, they need to go get help.
Yep.
And get right with themselves and the Lord.
Themselves and the Lord. Amen. Amen. And
All
again,
right.
thank you guys.
Amen,
Thanks,
brother.
Andy. God bless y'all.
Thank
You've
you,
been
guys.
watching A Million Veteran Millionaires. Change your mindset, change your future, and you never know what we're going to talk about. So thank you for tuning in. Everybody have a great day until the next episode of A Million Veteran Millionaires.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Good night,
Thank you.
y'all.
Good night.
What would happen if you started or took your business to $1 million, $2 million, or $5 million in annual revenue? What would that mean to you personally, your family, community, and your network? It can happen. A Million Veteran Millionaires is a mindset engineering Zoom call platform created to rally and gather veteran startups or veteran-owned businesses who want to work together to help each other succeed. We will first focus on changing mindsets that keep you back and go through a process called mindset engineering to take steps to achieving success. We will feature other successful business owners who are leading the way, who are supporting this mission. We are limited to 100 attendees initially. The cost is free to attend. If you would like to know more, please visit amillionveteranmillionaires.com. You deserve to have a successful business, and we want to help you. Change your mindset, change your future. America needs veterans more than ever. As a veteran business owner, you are equipped with a focus, professionalism, and dedication that is rare in the marketplace. We are looking for former military, make it happen business leaders like you to join forces with the marketplace mission called Veterans Business Force National, a division of Network in Action Business Force based in Houston, Texas. We are rallying patriots to work together to grow opportunities for yourself, each other, and our community around the country. We meet once a month via Zoom to share our vision and align with fellow warriors. Together, we are stronger. Google Veterans Business Force National to find us before we find you. Apply to join our mission at networkinaction.com. We are Veterans Business Force National, on mission and locking arms.